Hello there folks, welcome back to another video. In this one, we're going to be having a look through another one of the new Warhammer Age of Sigmar 4th edition Battletomes. In this case, we're going to be looking at the Ossiarch Bonereapers, who were the newest of the factions to be added into the mix for the current 4th edition of the game. As with all the other videos that I've been doing on the Battletomes, this will follow a similar format to those, in which I'll be talking about 5 things in sort of more detail that I really like about the Battletome, whilst also having a flick through it so you can have a look at it as well. I do also want to point out that this is also a little bit special because if you like the look of this Battletome and you maybe want to get it for yourself, well, I actually have a little bit of a surprise for folks. If you comment on this video after this with what you like about the Ossiarch Bonereapers, then you could be with a chance of winning your own copy. Ooh. So yes, watch this video, let me know what you think, and tell me what you like most about the Ossiarch Bonereapers and why they are the faction for you. I should point out the code in this one is fully ready to go, so you'll be able to use it with the app and everything. Brilliant. So yes, let's dive into this. Oh, and of course, like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Get a membership, give me a coffee, whatever you desire, I suppose. But let's dive in. So for those people who aren't familiar with the Ossiarch Bonereapers, they are a highly militaristic addition to Nagash's armory within the world of the Warhammer Age of Sigmar. They are essentially his, as you can see here, his deathless legions that have been summoned and have been crafted out of bones. So all of their bodies, whilst they are essentially skeletal and they have that kind of humanoid look to them, the actual makeup of the Ossiarch Bonereapers is of crafted bone, which has been sort of like changed and warped and twisted by magic, and turned into essentially sort of walking, I suppose you'd say, vessels for the Ossiarch Bonereapers. So then souls are implanted within them, and they become as either personalised and as dangerous as they would have been during life, in the case of some of the larger-than-life characters as part of the Ossiarch Bonereapers. Or if you're looking at the more rank-and-file stuff, then they become subservient warriors that will do literally anything that their commanders would ask of them. They are led by this fellow over here, as you can see in the artwork, which is Catacross. He was a mighty general that fought on the side of Nagash. He was vanquished at one point, only to then be resummoned, unlocked from his tomb by Nagash and the Mortarch of Grief, Lady Oleander, and was then brought back to life as this towering construct you see here. One of the nice things about the design of the Ossiarch Bonereapers is that it really sort of takes on a look of, I guess, the kind of like Middle East and also sort of India and Persian designs and that kind of thing as well. So there's something a little bit different about the way that they've been constructed as an army and the aesthetic that you get for them as well. They're not your kind of classic Western undead, well, Western European undead, I suppose I should say, with that kind of medieval vibe, that gothic vibe. They're a lot more in keeping with the wider scope and the aesthetic that you get when you look into collecting Warhammer Age of Sigmar. What was really nice about this is that within this book, they do the same thing as they've always done, where they have this really fun little breakdown of the different locations where they've taken over. So one of the nice things about the Ossiarchs basically sort of broke out from, I think it was over here somewhere, I think it was, and they sort of moved and spread across the realm of death, and they now have lots of these different fortresses here and there. You can see one of the fortresses as represented there, one of these necropolises, I suppose that you'd say, that have been again crafted out of bone by the forces of the Ossiarch Bonereapers. I was particularly drawn to not just this piece of artwork, but all the sort of discussion about sort of how it all works. So you've got Gothizar, which is the sort of like place where they call their sort of dominion, their home, and I loved the artwork and the design for it. I thought it was really fun, and it gives you an idea of the kind of majesty that you get when collecting the Ossiarch Bonereapers. I should point out one of the coolest things about the Ossiarch Bonereapers, and it's something that sort of pervades all of their lore and their background and everything, And you can actually see it in the artwork at the beginning of the book. So if we go back to this one here, what they do is, because they're crafted out of bone, they need the bones of their enemies in order to either rework and repair their existing shells, their existing vessels, or they need them to create more legions and create different monsters and all sorts of different things like that. And so what they do is they march from hold to hold, from city to city, from town to town, village to village, and all that kind of thing. And when they get there, they offer the people of that land, be they human, be they elves, dwarves, whatever it might be, Dwarden, elves, humans, whatever. They offer them an ultimatum. And they basically say, give us your Bone-Tith. So this is, let's say, 100 people's worth of bones, and if you don't give us 100 people's worth of bones, then we'll come in and we'll take 100 people's worth of bones and cart them off regardless. So they kind of give them sort of like a baron's tax almost, where they're sort of like, yes, you can come well, we will let you choose who dies, essentially, but if you don't do that, then we're going to come and we're just going to basically take it anyway. I was really drawn to the kind of the background and the sort of the depth to the Ossiarch Bonereapers that has been sort of like expanded from that, and you get a real sense of their character as sort of like these incredibly martial individuals, but also warriors that have a little bit of a sense of humor to them, I suppose, as well. In sort of like I remember it was great in this story where there's just this like unthinking automaton, although not really all thinking automaton, just marching forward and being like, oh yes, you owe us loads of bones. Make sure you're not late. And I just love that kind of weird, dark humour that you get from the Ossiarch Bonereapers. I was particularly drawn to one of the factions in particular. So you'll see here, or the sub-factions, I suppose you'd say. So here are some of the different variants of the Ossiarch Bonereapers and the ways that they sort of like work in battle and how they sort of fight, which will be a good grounding for where you take your force. But the second thing that I really loved about this, the first thing being the sort of the nature of the Ossiarch Bonereapers as a whole, was this particular bit here. So the Crematoria comes under assault from the war host of Tsar Vixia. The Hellsmiths make landfall on the northern coast and proceed to march into the Pyregate Mountains, where they are held by the defences of Orotan Farek. In their search for the way to alleviate their burning bone curse, the Crematorians, what a cool name for a faction, have amassed a sizable repository of lore in their necropolises, and Fareks can only assume that this is what the Hellsmiths seek. The fact that a crucial scroll was removed by the Legion's Mortisans and hidden for safekeeping eludes the Chaos Duardin, who continue their attack on Pyrgate with no sense of abatement. So I love all these little tiny lore bits that you get in these new Battletomes that sort of speak to the wider conflict that's going on at the moment. But also it was really nice to see the Hellsmiths having a lot more involvement in the ongoing conflict and the ongoing narrative. But I was just so in love with the Crematorians. Like, if you go back to this, the volatile Crematorians throw their furnace-hot cohorts at the Ratmen with abandon. For the brittle bone of Skaven is as useful as any for their ephemeral warriors. By enacting mass conflagrations, the Crematorians establish crucial fire breaks to stem the Skaven spread and burn out their burrows. Their lands are also under attack by the Hellsmiths of Tsar Vixia, which we just read, leaving them partially beleaguered, although the Pyrgate Bastion still holds. Defence is a foreign concept to the Crematorians, really love that, but they are adapted by excavating great pyre pits of perpetual balefire, and use their sacrificial doom raids to break up their enemies' smashed ranks. So think about how cool that would be as a design for painting your army, painting up these big, just burning skeletons like the Legion of the Damned or something from Warhammer 40,000. Super cool idea, very nice indeed. And you can actually see some more of the different paint schemes and things that you could go for when it comes to putting your force together, which is really nice. Lots of different ways for you to do that in different ways. There's a little bit of a breakdown of all the stuff in the Battletome as well, so if you are somebody who's new to this, you can find a little bit more about the lore. So you can learn about Nagash himself, who's probably going to have quite a part to play in the upcoming narrative, I would think. You also have Catacross, who's his major general, the one who'll be leading the way. Arkan the Black, the Mortarch of Sacrament, who is someone that a lot of people will know from Warhammer the Old World and Days of Old. You also have Arch Cavalos Xandros, and then your classic Liege Cavalos there as well. You also have all of your different characters, so things like the Vok Mortian, the Mortis on Soul Masons. They all have this weird and wonderful look to them. Like the Vok Mortian is this guy sort of encased within his own sort of crypt that he walks around with, and you can actually see more on Vok Mortian in the opening artwork for this as well, so you'll have seen him there, which is quite cool. Alongside a variety of different characters, we have the new Liege Mortek on foot, which was also added into the mix, as long as the Liege Cavalos, alongside his War Chariot, which was new for this edition. And you can see the Cavalos Death Riders and the War Chariot there. Some more artwork and some more painting of the various characters and the different troops that you make up your force with. I will say, there is some of the aesthetic of the Ossiarch Bonereapers that I do quite like, and then there's stuff that I'm not massively sold on. Like, I wonder if it's just the studio paint scheme for these, but I think they all just look a little bit too action figure-y, for want of a better word. I wonder if it's just if they were painted in a different scheme, like, for example, like the Crematorians, and doing it in a sort of like burning bone style. I think maybe they'd look a little bit different, a little bit better. But it's something to experiment with if you're looking at stuff for yourself. I really also love these new miniatures. Oh my god, I love these. The Mortis Reapers are so cool. So one of the nice things about the Ossiarch Bonereapers is that they're almost kind of honourable in the way that they fight. And so the Ossiarch Bonereapers will go out of their way to sort of stage good battles, and they'll fight tactically and all this kind of stuff as well. The Mortis Reapers are sort of like looked down on by likes of Catacross and the rest of the leaders of the Ossiarch Bonereapers, because they're essentially your assassins. They will go out of their way to hunt you down, and they'll stab you in the back, and they'll slit your throat, and they'll take out commanders on the battlefield or people in their chambers somewhere else, and they look badass. I mean, seriously, look at those guys in their cool outfits. They're very much sort of going for that assassin Middle Eastern vibe, which I think is super, super awesome. And they have some cool stuff where they throw like grave sand, which sort of like basically turn you into a pile of bones, just sort of like desiccates your flesh immediately. Your bones fall to the floor and they can harvest them up for the Bone-Tith, which I think is really cool. And they even like throw like fire at you and all sorts of different things to sort of like set you alight and all that kind of stuff. A little bit more of a breakdown of some of the other different creatures and things. So you've got the War Goliath in the form of the Immortis Guard and the Necropolis Stalkers. More about them in a little bit. The Morghasts, the Gothazar Harvester, the Mortek Crawler, the massive Bone-Tith Nexus, which I think is super badass. A really nice little addition to things. And then, of course, your endless spells as well. You then also have your rules. I will say, I'm not the person to look at when it comes to rules. If you are interested in learning a little bit more about the rules of the Ossiarch Bonereapers, I would heartily recommend going to check out videos from the likes of The Honest Wargamer, who does really nice breakdowns of the Battletomes and talks about them in more detail, and goes through what works and what doesn't and all that kind of thing as well. So if you're looking for a tactical breakdown of the Ossiarch Bonereapers, make sure to go and check out him and what he's doing. But as a sort of like basic thing, they have like points that they spend, these discipline points, in order to make these different things happen. So you have one that sort of works with shoot abilities, one that works with fight abilities, one that works with in your movement phase and all that kind of thing as well. So you build up these points over the course of the battle, and then you'll spend those points based on your various characters. You'll actually see in the entries for various characters. Here you go. So this purple number that you see here, that's their sort of relentless discipline points that you'll be using to spend to do these various abilities. You'll actually see it talked about in more detail here. So in addition, heroes have the relentless discipline keyword, to which the Immortal Elite ability refers. Its value is also represented below the ward save, and it is used for your relentless discipline keywords and things like that, which is very cool. So it's a nice little sort of bonus thing that they have access to as you're playing the game. You have your classic spell laws, or your heroic traits and artifacts of power. So if you're interested in these, maybe pause the video and have a quick look at them, and let me know what you think. And then, of course, you have all of your various entries for your different characters. There's Nagash, Catacross, comes with 10 of those points. Oh, great stuff. Arcan the Black, all the rest of them as well. There is one unit though that I really like. So obviously I've talked about how much I like the Mortis Reapers, sorry. But I love this scheme. Oh my god, that scheme for them with the white cloaks is super badass. Reminds me of the characters from the remake of Wrath of the Titans or Clash of the Titans, whichever one it is, where you have this kind of like wood folk. They're really cool. But I have always loved the Necropolis stalkers. I love this design of like this massive towering warrior with the 4 different heads. So each of the different heads allows it to attack from all different actions and angles and all sorts of different directions, but it also represents almost like 4 souls built into one body, and those 4 souls built into the one body allow it to sort of adopt different fighting forms as it sort of moves around the battlefield, which I think is such a cool idea when it comes to building something sort of effectively bred in a vat for battle on the tabletop, and of course in the wider world. And it comes with this 4-fold Slayer's rule, so pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in the target unit. For each 6, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. If this unit has 3 or more models, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target for each 5+ instead. So they're great for scything through great swathes of infantry, which I think is absolutely badass. I think it'd be really fun to have an entire army basically made up of them. I think that'd be really cool, especially with the Immortis Guard as well. But very nice indeed. You have your Gothazar Harvester and your Mortec Crawlers there as well. And then all of the stuff for your various war scrolls, the Bone-Tith Nexus. There's also a new Spearhead. This is the Kavalos Vanguard, so it's a little bit more speedy than stuff you might have seen before. And if you are interested in learning how to paint the Ossiarch Bonereapers, that is in there too. So you've got some different top tips there for getting a force ready and raring for the table. So I've talked about 4 of the things that I enjoy most about the Ossiarch Bonereapers there. The last one being the those Necropolis Stalkers. You also have all of your Path to Glory stuff in here as well. So if you are interested in doing the Path to Glory with the Ossiarch Bonereapers, you do have that option there too. So you can follow this through and make a much more themed force for your games. Make sure to have a look at that one as well. So you've got 2 new paths, Path of the Conqueror and Path of the Legion, which are very handy for your various troops and your characters within the Ossiarch Bonereaper forces. You also then, of course, have your armies of renown. So you have the Lance of Ossia, which is led by Arch Kavalos Xantros. So that's a much more cavalry-focused force. And then you have the Null Myriad, which is the slightly more wizardy-based one. So this is an army of renown, which has a bit more of a sort of magical focus, if you're looking in that sense. The armies of renown are different from the main rules in that you just use what is presented here, rather than what you got as part of the rules earlier on in the book. You just make use of this particular element of the game, so you don't have to remember 2 different things, which is quite good. And then, last but not least, the last thing that I love about this book is the Heralds of the Bone-Tith. So I've talked about how much I love the idea of the Bone-Tith, where you go out and you sort of take your resources from the various peoples of the world. Well, this is a regiment around that you can tie to the Flesh-Eater Courts, the Night Haunt, or the Soul-Blight Gravelords, and use it for such an ability. So you have Vok Mortian, the Master of the Bone-Tith, alongside 3 Immortis Guard who are going to be watching over him as his bodyguards. And then you have 10 Mortec Guard who act as his sort of like his stand-ins, his troops that have been brought alongside to make sure that they reinforce the law. And then he comes with a really fun ability called the Decree of Nagash. So pick a friendly Vok Mortian in this regiment of renown to cast this spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of them to be the target, then make a casting roll 2d6, looking for a 7, as you can see there in the corner. For the rest of the turn, each time your opponent declares a fight ability for the target, unless they spend 1 command point, the fight ability has no effect. That is great. Oh my god, that's so good. Because basically he's going, if you fight me, Nagash will be very mad with you. And I think that's a really fun little thematic addition to this particular collection. You will also find at the back of the book a little rules reference, which will sort of break down all of your abilities and your spells and all that kind of thing as well. But yeah, that's a really sort of quick look at the Battletome and what is available for the Ossiarch Bonereapers. Hopefully that was something a little bit insightful for those people who are maybe looking at getting an idea of what the Ossiarch Bonereapers are all about, sort of how they work. They're a very martial force. This sort of like designed army by Nagash that has been sort of bred for one single purpose, like the Urukai perhaps. Lots of different ways for you to flavour them as well, lots of different ways for you to paint them. You can build high impact cavalry forces. You can make legions and legions of just your standard troops if that's the direction you want to go. You can mix and match things. You can become more specialised and play around with things like the Mortis Reapers. You can go big with some of the monstrous creatures in there as well. There's no shortage of different ways for you to build your force. And they're actually going to be fairly easy for you to paint as a faction as well, because it's a lot of bone, and then you do a little bit of colour here and there for the armour, a little bit of balefire for good measure, and away you go, really. And then you can start to look at some of the big characters in the mix as well, like Catacross and Arcan and all that kind of thing too, alongside those regiments of renown as we just talked about at the same time. So yeah, some fun stuff in there. They're not a one-trick pony. There's plenty for you to get your teeth stuck into when you're making the Ossiarch Bonereapers list, so make sure to have a look at this one in more detail. Let me know what you think down below. Are you liking the look of the Ossiarch Bonereapers? Could they be the faction for you? How do you paint them? Have you come up with some cool ways to do that sort of make them look less like action figures? Please let me know in the comments down below. As always, make sure to dive in, tell me what you think, like, share, subscribe, do all of that good stuff, and I'll be back with another video very, very soon. As I mentioned at the start of the video, there are members. You can join up if you like. There are members videos, and I am still working on doing live streams. Just please bear with me. I'm trying to make sure that I can do a setup that isn't weird and wacky. And also, you can do things like a Ko-fi and all sorts of things as well if you prefer to go down that route. And also, as I said at the start, there is also the chance for you to win a copy of the Ossiarch Bonereapers Battletome by simply commenting down below. And I will send it to you, well, anywhere in the world, basically. So if you are interested in getting your hands on the Battletome and you like them as a faction, please just drop your thoughts down below. Tell me what you love about the Ossiarch Bonereapers, and I'll pick a winner at random, and I'll send it out to you as soon as I can. So yes, thank you very much for watching another video. I'll be back with more stuff. It is Adepticon this week, so I'll be going through all of the reveals for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Going to be so fun, maybe a little bit more on Warhammer Underworlds as well. Go through all of those reveals and talk about that in a bit more detail. And yeah, I'll be back with a video later in the week, and more fun to come later on too. So yes, bye for now, folks, and yeah, don't forget to comment down below for a chance to win yourself a copy of this Battletome as well. Bye.